Yes, what's good everybody? Welcome back to Chat Sports TV. I'm your host Nick Dais here with the NFL Daily Report. You can find me on all social media outlets at The Lamb Show. Today, we are going through potential blockbuster trades in the National Football League that can take place prior to or at the NFL trade deadline next Tuesday. Some names have already moved from point A to point B. Manny Sanders leaving the Denver Broncos to the undefeated San Francisco 49ers. And then we got Mo Sanu joining another undefeated team in the New England Patriots. His time with Atlanta came and went. I'm basing my list of names off three important and significant categories that I'm grouping all of these players in. Number one, a veteran that just needs a change of scenery. A lot of times what happens with these guys, no matter what sport across the board, they just need a change of scenery. They've been there for way too long and they need a spark, they need something new, that new fling to come into their life that's going to rejuvenate their career. Number two, draft capital or cap space capital. A lot of teams might give up some big assets in their draft to acquire a stud like some of these names that we're going to run through, or they have the cap space because they have not yet paid their quarterback, or they might move from their quarterback in order to get under the cap. And last but not least, of course, team need. Every one of these teams need that particular player that we're running through. Let's kick us off with player number one on this list, and it's none other than the 31-year-old star wide receiver from the Cincinnati Bengals, that is A.J. Green. I think what happens with a lot of guys like A.J. Green is we just forget how good they are, or were. I still think are, because they've been injured, right? Last year, he did not surpass the 1,000-yard mark, which he's done pretty much all of his career. This guy was an absolute stallion on the outside, one of the top 5-10 wide receivers of the last decade in the National Football League. And a lot of this, most of this has been done with Andy Dalton, who, let's face it, Bengals fans, he's not really getting you super excited. So A.J. Green has been able to produce at a high level with sort of average to, at best, above average quarterback play throughout his entire career. I think this guy just needs a change of scenery. The Bengals have yet to win a football game. The Bengals are a team that are completely rebuilding, and injuries have slowed them down. But I think a move to one of these three teams, either the Green Bay Packers, imagine that offense with Devontae Adams on one side, A.J. Green on the other side, and you got Valdez-Scantling or Lazard or Kumaro, all these guys that Aaron Rodgers just had a career day with a bunch of cast-offs pretty much in his lineup. Imagine A.J. Green going to a team that's going to have a chance to compete for a Super Bowl. That could re-energize his career. Another team I'm thinking about, and I know they just traded for a wide receiver, and I don't know how likely this might be, folks, but I always thought that the ideal pairing for A.J. Green were the San Francisco 49ers. I understand Manny Sanders going there, but I think Manny Sanders is just like Deebo Samuel. He's just like Dante Pettis, Marquise Goodwin. It's these undersized, quick, speedy slot wide receivers. You need a big boy on the outside, and I thought A.J. Green this whole time would have been an ideal fit over in the Bay Area. And last but not least, this team seems to always make a splash and acquire a veteran piece, and I don't know how they managed to fit this under their cap all this time. And this team is going to be heavily featured throughout this segment and video because they have a lot of issues, as we've seen, and out of the Philadelphia Eagles. The Eagles are a team who Alshon Jeffrey just always looks hurt when he's running. I don't know if he's slowed down, but it seems like he's running around sometimes with an anvil on his back, and they truly miss Deshaun Jackson. So I think a guy like A.J. Green could provide a spark for this team. I want you guys to weigh in below. Tell me what you think about this. I also want you guys to go subscribe to the YouTube channel if you have not yet. youtube.com/chatsports.tv. ChatSportsTV, excuse me. Next up, Melvin Gordon, the 26-year-old running back, has been abysmal since he made his return. I think Melvin Gordon was chilling on his couch thinking he was going to get paid, and then Lil Austin Eckler was running wild, running rampant throughout the entire National Football League. He was a guy who you were starting in your fantasy lineups week in, week out with the utmost confidence. And Melvin Gordon probably got on the phone with his agent and he was like, hey man, I think we're losing some money right now because Austin Eckler is really balling out. I think Austin Eckler is the answer to that backfield for the Chargers. And when the Chargers figure out, hey, we got to stop giving the ball to Melvin Gordon, then the Chargers will go back to winning football games. Until then, it's going to be a disaster. And I think one of the reasons why is trying to force feed Melvin Gordon to maybe get his stock to rise back up again. I don't know what the issue is, but I would love to see him on three teams. Number one, again, Philadelphia Eagles. They need a running back. Jordan Howard doesn't do it for me, and Miles Sanders has been a disappointment in between the tackles. He's become more of the pass-catching back in that backfield with Darren Sproles still out with nursing some injuries. I would love to see him in Houston. I know El Guapo, Carlos Hyde, and Duke Johnson, who they also have already traded a draft pick for, have produced, but a guy like Melvin Gordon could work wonders for a quarterback like Deshaun Watson, who is on pace to have a career year. And number 3, the Tampa Bay Bucks. The Tampa Bay Bucks were rumored for guys like Le'Veon Bell in the offseason, guys like Jordan Howard before he signed with the Eagles. And Melvin Gordon has been quietly linked to Bruce Arians and the Tampa Bay Bucks. They really don't have a stud running back over there, and I think Melvin Gordon could be a guy that could re-energize that offense and maybe help Jameis Winston, who last time we saw Jameis Winston, he is the sole reason why the Panthers lead the National Football League in turnovers. So I think trading a potential 4th or 5th round pick for a guy like Melvin Gordon with the upside, if Melvin Gordon tells one of these 3 teams, hey, you know what, I'm going to re-sign with you, then I think you can ask for a 2nd round pick if you're the LA Chargers. But if not, it's going to be a hard sell for a running back who, not for nothing, it's a position where it has become expendable over the years. Next up, we got Super Bowl champion, Super Bowl MVP Von Miller, 30-year-old defensive lineman, has a big cap hit with the Denver Broncos, 10 sacks in all but 1 season in his career. He just surpassed the 100 sacks plateau in his career as well. Still an elite pass rusher, and I think teams like the Philadelphia Eagles could use a pass rush because it seemed to be non-existent so far. I don't know what's happened to them. They've lost some pieces the last couple of years, and it's been an issue. The Oakland Raiders, shout out to our guy Mitchell Renz. I don't know if Denver is going to be willing to trade in division, and that's a common theme that you'll see with some of these players where I think their best ideal pairing is in division, but I don't know if the other teams are going to rock with that and if Denver is going to be cool with that, just trading them in division and having to play them twice, potentially 3 times a year. Tampa Bay Bucks, they need help in that secondary as well. And a team that I think could be sneaky, and he has a good rapport, good chemistry with one Cam Newton in Carolina. I think the Carolina Panthers would be the ideal fit for a guy like Von Miller, a team who is competing for that division. Now, they are 2 games back of the Saints, but they do have 2 games to go against the New Orleans Saints, so they can make up ground there. If I'm the Broncos, I'm asking for a 1st round pick, and I think that's validating. I think you could get away with that because Von Miller still has about 3-4 prime elite level all-pro caliber years as a pass rusher. Eventually they could transition him to just be a specialist in the sense of 3rd down rusher, NASCAR packages kind of guy, but for the time being I think he's a 3-down pass rusher defensive end, and I think a 1st round pick would suffice. If you call the Broncos and you say, hey, you know what, 1st round pick for Von Miller, get away from that cap hit, free up some space for next year's free agency, I think that's something that could be had if you are the Denver Broncos or one of these 4 teams. The next team up we have Patrick Peterson. Just came back off of a suspension, the 29-year-old quarterback. I still think he's a top-tier corner in the game. As we say, he's coming off a suspension. Seems to be a little more fresh. Last week against the Giants, he made his NFL debut. Staying with the Carolina Panthers, I think the Panthers desperately need a corner opposite of Bradbury, who has been quietly having a good season. I think the Seattle Seahawks could use a lockdown corner. Again, I don't know if the Cardinals are going to be cool with shipping him in division. The Oakland Raiders, again, shout out to Mitchell. I think the Raiders desperately need a corner. They just traded a corner away to the Houston Texans. Conley just got shipped over there. And you know what? The New York Giants desperately need a corner as well. And I think moving on from a guy like Janoris Jenkins, DeAndre Baker, the 1st round pick, has been a incredible disaster in that secondary. And the Giants need help. And I think Patrick Peterson is the guy he's been with the Cardinals since the day he was drafted. I think those are potentially the teams that I could see maybe making the move for Patrick Peterson. Now, what is the asking price? A 3rd round pick? 4th round pick? You know, we just saw the package that just went for Jalen Ramsey, but there's a lot of things you got to factor with Jalen Ramsey. A lot younger, playing at a higher level, and they haven't yet paid him yet. So you're getting a tremendous asset in Jalen Ramsey. We're here, you're going to have to acquire this contract for Patrick Peterson. So I want you guys to weigh in the comments below. What do you think it would take for the Cardinals to give up on their defensive leader along with Chandler Jones, Patrick Peterson? What would the asking price be from the Cardinals? Weigh in the comments below. Let me know what you think. My 5th player here, O.J. Howard, 24-year-old tight end. He was supposed to be everyone's breakout star tight end this year in fantasy. His ADP was absolutely ridiculous in my opinion because he comes from a system with Bruce Arians that doesn't really utilize the tight end, and that seems to be what you are seeing down in Tampa. I think, and a lot of people have been rumored to have this link between the Patriots because they always like using two tight end sets and they always like using tight ends. O.J. Howard going to the New England Patriots. I don't know how likely that is, but the Patriots seem to be zigging when everyone is zagging, right? They just made a move for Mo Sanu. They got rid of Bennett as well. They constantly are making moves, right? This is a team that's undefeated, and the first thing they did Tuesday morning was trade for another wide receiver, right? The rich get richer, and that seems to be what the Patriots are doing. The Cleveland Browns, you could use a tight end to replace a guy like Njoku who's on IR. I know Ricky Seals-Jones is playing relatively okay for you, but I think this could provide some big upside for that offense that desperately needs a spark because Baker Mayfield and that offensive line are not a cohesive unit right now, and it is showing on the status and the statistics of one Jarvis Landry and Odell Beckham Jr. Another team that could use a tight end, and there's some heat between Delaney Walker and the Tennessee Titans, and they're playing each other this weekend. I think O.J. Howard going to Tennessee could be something that could rejuvenate them a little bit. And also the Jaguars. The Jaguars staying in Florida, I think they could use a tight end for a guy like Gardner Minshew and Nick Foles when he comes back. So O.J. Howard, those are the teams that I got for him. Number 6, this is where it's going to get a little interesting, folks. And I don't know how often we've seen a franchise caliber quarterback get moved at the trade deadline. But is there a more ideal pairing in the National Football League with how well Kyle Allen has been playing than Cam Newton to get shipped to Chi-Town to play with the monsters of the Midway, the Chicago Bears? Because Mitchell Trubisky, I personally think, is atrocious at quarterback. I think he is the sole reason why the Bears cannot hit their ceiling as an organization. Hot take, I think Mitchell Trubisky is not going to be on the Chicago Bears within the next 2 seasons. They're going to have to move on from him. The Bears are my prime candidate. Now, the issue with the Chicago Bears is what can you give up? What can you give up to Carolina? Because you still don't have draft picks from when you gave up all those assets to bring in a guy like Mitchell Trubisky and Khalil Mack. So this is more of a fit and pipe dream because I think the Bears have a really good roster. Shout out to Allen Robinson, who continues to ball out and has had guys like Blake, the Snake, Bortles, and Mitchell Trubisky throwing him the rock in his NFL career. And another team I think that could be really cool and interesting, Pittsburgh Steelers. I don't know how likely that will be, but Cam Newton going to a team who is still not out of it because that division is so tight. And they do play Miami on Monday. So who knows what that record is going to look like. Their schedule does get easier later on in the year. So the dream scenario here is for him to go to the Chicago Bears. But I think the Pittsburgh Steelers could be interesting. And the last name on this list, this was a bonus for you guys. This is a guy who I do think is going to get traded, because I think there's a fire sale in Denver, and that is Chris Harris Jr. A guy who started off his career playing in the nickel. He was a slot corner and became one of the premier slot corners in the National Football League. As a prolific daily fantasy player, I knew never to take slot wide receivers against the Denver Broncos when he was lining up in the slot. This year they made the transition because of injuries or because of just moving him to the outside, because they paid him like a corner on the outside. They moved Chris Harris Jr. out there, and he's become one of the premier shutdown corners in the National Football League. I think he's the best corner in the league that's potentially available at the moment. I think he is better than Patrick Peterson. He just got paid. He's also 30 years old. Again, a team that I would love to see him on, the Philadelphia Eagles. They desperately need cornerback help. When Rasul Douglas is one of your corners and you get excited because Jalen Mills is coming back, oh boy, that's why it is a struggle in Philadelphia. The New York Giants, they could use some cornerback help. I would love to see him go there. The Oakland Raiders, again, common theme of this video. I don't know how likely it is for these teams to trade in division. And Chris Harris Jr. is a stud corner. And last but not least, if you are the Kansas City Chiefs, you missed out on Jalen Ramsey. Luckily, he went out of conference. But you need a corner to match up with the New England Patriots if you are thinking of playing them in the AFC title game, which it seems like to me still is what's going to happen come January. As long as Pat Mahomes is okay, I think if you're the Kansas City Chiefs, you need to risk it all to potentially win a Super Bowl with Pat Mahomes prior to having to pay him close to $40-50 million a year, because that's what it's going to take to keep Pat Mahomes there. So I want you guys to weigh in. General question for everyone watching this video: which of these players that I've mentioned do you think is most likely to be traded? Right? We got Chris Harris Jr., Cam Newton, O.J. Howard, Patrick Peterson, Von Miller, Melvin Gordon, and A.J. Green. As far as I go, you can find me on all social media outlets at The Lamb Show. Tell me what you thought about this video. Make sure you subscribe to the YouTube channel, and I'll catch you guys next time on NFL Daily.